Hey CAC family, I'm coming to you, well, in the moment it's live for me, but it won't be live for you, from my backyard. This is my backyard, and you'll hear, I'm about to share with you a story of something that actually happened in this backyard. So I thought it would be appropriate to film from my backyard. So I'm going to share a story with you today and give you kind of a thought or an application for it. About a year ago, it was on October 23rd, 2019. It was about 3 in the morning. I was laying in bed fast asleep, as anyone should be at 3 a.m. And as I'm laying there, my husband grabs my arms and he shakes me and he says, Angela, wake up. A tree just fell on our house. And I was obviously groggy. So I slowly got out of bed and I asked him why he thought that, and he said, Angela, like the whole house shook. He said, I heard a loud snap and the whole house shook. And he's like, I can't believe you didn't wake up. And I was like, well, that's odd. So I start walking around the house. I honestly thought in that moment of my good friend Caroline Prestridge, who had just a few months before lost her house to a fire, and so my instant thought was, if a tree has truly fallen on our house, I need to make sure that if there's not a fire or that it didn't spark something. And so I started going around my house, and I looked out my kids' windows where we have some trees, and there was nothing. And then I walked into the kitchen. There was no power at the time, so I walked into the kitchen and I looked out our kitchen window where we have a really big tree. That tree was still there, and I can remember calling back to my husband, what in the world makes you think a tree fell? And he said, Angela, it was so loud, I can't believe it didn't wake you up. And I said, okay. And then I turned the corner from our kitchen and I looked out our back door from our living room, and that's when I saw it. Not a tree, but I could see the stars in the sky as if we lived in the country, which was strange because normally when I look out that window, I see leaves, lots of leaves. So I went out that back door and I looked out our top deck, and what I saw was a little startling. It honestly kind of felt like a scary movie because there was this calmness outside. I could see the stars. There was no wind. There was no storm. But this tree that was well over 130 years old and probably over, I'm looking up because I'm imagining how tall it was, probably over 80 feet tall, was now laying in the length of our entire backyard where I'm standing here. And it was kind of crazy because it hadn't been raining, and so I went back inside, and for the first time in my life, I called 911. That was a little, I don't know why, but I was scared. But I called 911 because I had heard that when trees fall and pull power lines down, that fires can start pretty easily. So I was worried that we would have a fire like in our yard somewhere. So I called 911, the police, or sorry, not the police, the fire department came out. They inspected the wire that fell, and they inspected our house, and they taped it up. And then they called Entergy, and Entergy came out and they looked at it. Needless to say, I did not go back to sleep that day. I can remember going inside after they all left and thinking, well, I guess I just get ready for work? Like, what? So I got ready for that work that day as best I could. That was an experience, getting ready in the pitch black, which I know that's not uncommon. I know people have to do that from time to time. But anyway, I got the kids ready. They thought it was fun. It was an adventure getting ready in the dark. And then we got in the car and I went to work, and I can remember driving to school that day and thinking, I just need to live one moment at a time because this feels like a lot. This massive tree that's fallen. Hopefully by now you've seen the picture. And so it felt like a lot, but I thought, you don't overcome these things quickly. You just got to take them one bit at a time. And so I remember thinking, I just got to take this day one moment at a time. Went to school, tried as hard as I could to pretend like life was normal. I'm sure I told some of my students about it. But when I got home that day, I was anxious to see our backyard. I wanted to see, when we left, it was pretty dark. And so I wanted to see, like, what did this really look like? And so as I got home that day, my husband had already gotten our kids, and I walked into the house. He tried to say something to me, but my mind was, what's our next few days? What are our next few hours going to look like? And so I walked through our house And I opened the back door, and I couldn't help but laugh because when I looked out our back door from the downstairs, there was this massive tree in our yard, the size of our entire yard. But in the tree were my two kids playing and as happy as could be. It was like God had given them the best playground this earth could offer them. And it was just funny. It was funny to see that they were enjoying something that felt really heavy to me. To see them enjoy it was, kind of weird. So anyway, I walked around the tree. I kind of looked at our backyard, trying to figure out what was, how in the world did this happen? I had a hard time figuring out how a tree so massive and so old, well, I guess it being old might be the answer, but I remember thinking, how could a tree that's so large have fallen? And so I looked around, and I looked at the outside of the tree, and it looked normal. From the outside, it looked healthy. There was nothing that stood out to me. As I looked at the outside, I thought, this looks like any other tree in our yard. And then I looked at the base of the tree, at the bottom of the tree, and that's when I saw it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of laughed. A lot of thoughts happened in that moment as I saw the base of the tree, because as I said, the outside looked completely normal, but I could see at the center of the tree, or what I would say the heart of the tree, had started to rot away, but you couldn't see it from the outside. It happened in the inside. And in that moment, like I said, I thought of several things. I thought of the verse from Proverbs. I love that we're doing Proverbs this year, but I thought of the verse from Proverbs. It's Proverbs 4:23. It says, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I'm going to say that again. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So as I looked at this tree, I thought, what is there a more perfect example of that verse? I don't know. But I also, in that moment, all day long I had thought, why did this tree fall? Why did this tree fall? Why did this tree fall? And then in that moment when I saw that it in a sense that its heart had rotted away, it all came together in my head. I remember in that moment thinking, of course it fell. You see, a week before this happened, another kind of heavy thing had happened. Someone I'm close to had come to me and talked to me about their own heart and about their own sin and addiction that had creeped into their life. And in a sense, it had eaten away at their heart, and as they told it to me, it felt like they were falling too. And I can remember that as I looked at that tree, I thought about that week before and how that person came to me and told me those things, and I remember feeling this weight of this mess that was just laid in front of me, and how in the world could I clean up this mess? And not that it was my job to clean it up, but there was this sense of like, how do I handle this? And so as I looked at that tree and I thought about Proverbs 4:23, and I thought about the weight that had just been put on me the week before, and as I looked at the tree thinking about the weight of this tree, I thought, I have two choices here. I have two kind of big choices, two options, I guess, maybe. The first one, in a sense, I could walk away. I remember thinking, I could just call a professional, and I could say, hey, why don't you come take care of this mess? I could, and in this other person's life, I remember thinking, I could walk away. I could say, this is not my expertise. This is not my problem. I'm going to walk away. And that would have been, in some situations, the right thing to do. But I also thought in that moment about what God does for us when we fall. I thought about the times that I myself had fallen and how He didn't walk away from me, how He grabbed my hand and He held me while I cried, and how He surrounded me with people to take care of me. And in that moment, looking at that tree, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to do the same thing I had done just the week before. I was going to clean it up. I was going to dig in, and I was going to say, you know what, we're going to do this, and we're going to clean it up, and we're going to put our lives back together, so to speak. And so we started that process. And there are three kind of like takeaways, three things I wanted to tell you in this. Three things I want you to maybe remember. The first one, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I'm going to say it again because I think it's so important. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The second thing is this. At some point in your life, someone, maybe yourself, is going to, in a sense, fall because of an addiction or because of sin that creeps into their heart. And you are going to have the same decision that I had in that moment. You're going to have to decide, do I stay by them, or do I pray about it and ask that somebody else, that God brings somebody else to fix this? And I'm not here to tell you to stick it out. And I'm not here to tell you that the right answer is to stay there while they walk through that. It depends on the situation, and it depends on what you're going through. But I do pray that in that moment you turn to God, and that you open up the Bible and you look through Proverbs and you figure out what is the best thing for you in your heart, and what's the best thing for that person. And I pray that God will give you that wisdom to do the right thing. And then my third thing, I would just encourage you to share your story. I think that as you get older, you're going to develop a story, and I think that God wants us to share it, and especially I think he just wants us to share the times when we fall apart, but also the times that I just think he wants us to share our story. In the months that followed that, we slowly cleaned it up. I have some videos, I don't know if they'll get put in here, but I have some videos of my husband chopping away at the wood. It's kind of funny. And slowly over time we were able to pick up the pieces of that chaos that happened in our life. And I don't know, in the end, I don't know when another tree in my life will fall, so to speak. I do know that it'll happen at some point. And while I don't know what I will decide to do, I do know that no matter what I choose, and no matter what you choose when those things happen in your life, that God is going to be with you every step of the way, just like he was with me. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.